Hello, this webinar is titled A Country Built to Last, the Creator versus Alternative Theories of Origins. Charles Darwin's book, The Origin of Species, was published November 24, 1859, and we want to explore this question: does Darwin's book and his theories of evolution displace the ideas that the founders put in the Declaration of Independence and our founding documents? Well, in one president's mind it did. Woodrow Wilson and the Progressives believed that Darwin's theory of evolution meant that a new theory of government needed to evolve, that the Founders' theory as expressed in the Declaration and the Constitution were outdated, and that a ruling class of elites would be the best course for humankind to govern themselves. What many people don't realize is that almost all the alternative theories of origin summarized in Charles Darwin's book had been around for centuries, going as far back as the 6th century before the birth of Christ. The founding fathers would have been well familiar with these theories. Let's take a look at some of the scientists and the time frame that these theories were unfolded. Anaximander in the 6th century BC introduced the theory of spontaneous generation. Empedocles in the 5th century BC introduced the theory of the survival of the fittest and of natural selection. Theocritus, also in the 5th century BC, advocated the mutability and adaptation of species. Diogenes in the 4th century BC introduced the concept of the primordial slime. Lucretius in the 1st century BC promoted the idea that all life springs from Mother Earth rather than from any specific deity. Fast forwarding to the centuries before the founding period, Bruno in the 16th century published works arguing against creation and for evolution. Leibniz in the 17th century taught the theory of intermediate species. Buffon in the 18th century taught that man was a quadruped ascended from the apes. And Helvetius also in the 18th century expressed this theory. The Founding Fathers were well acquainted with these writings and the theories of evolution long before Darwin synthesized them in his famous book in 1859, and yet they came to their own conclusions. And here again are some of their reflections. Thomas Jefferson: so irresistible are these evidences of an intelligent and powerful agent that of the infinite numbers of men who have existed through all time they have believed in the proportion of 1,000,000 to 1 in the hypothesis of an eternal pre-existence of a creator rather than in that of a self-existent universe. The movements of the heavenly bodies so exactly held in their course by the balance of centrifugal and centripetal forces, the structure of our earth itself with its distribution of lands, waters, and atmosphere, animal and vegetable bodies examined in all their minutest particles, insects mere atoms of life, yet as perfectly organized as man or mammoth. Also, the mineral substance, their generation and uses. It's impossible, I say, for the human mind not to believe that there is in all this design, cause and effect, up to an ultimate cause, a fabricator of all things, from matter and motion, their preserver and regulator while permitted to exist in their present forms, and their regenerator into new and other forms. Benjamin Franklin made these statements. It might be judged an affront to your understanding should I go about to prove this first principle, the existence of a deity, and that he is the creator of the universe, for that would suppose you ignorant of what all mankind in all ages have agreed in. I shall therefore proceed to observe that he must be a being of infinite wisdom, as appears in his admirable order and disposition of things. Whether we consider the heavenly bodies, the stars and planets in their wonderful regular motions, or the earth, compounded of such an excellent mixture of all the elements, or the admirable structure of animate bodies of such infinite variety, and yet every one adapted to its nature and in the way of life it is to be placed in, whether on earth, in the air, or in the water, and so exactly that the highest and most exquisite human reason cannot find fault. So in all of this design, Franklin is saying you can find intelligence. John Adams said the stupendous plan of operation was projected by him who rules the universe, and a part assigned to every particle of matter to act in this great and complicated drama. The Creator looked into the remotest futurity and saw his great designs accomplished by this inextricable, this mysterious complication of causes. again making this observation that all this order speaks to design. John Quincy Adams said this: "It is so obvious to every reasonable being that he did not make himself, and that the world which he inhabits could as little make itself, that the moment we begin to exercise the power of reflection, it seems impossible to escape the conviction that there is a Creator." Daniel Webster said this: "The belief in an uncreated, self-existent, intelligent first cause takes possession of our minds whether we will or not. Because if man could not create himself, nothing else could. And matter, if it were not external, could produce nothing but matter. It could never produce thought, nor free will, nor consciousness. There must have been, therefore, a time when this globe and its inhabitants did not exist. The question then arises, what gave it existence? We answer, God, the first cause of all things." The founders had knowledge of all these alternative origins, and yet they thought for themselves. Will you think for yourself? Look into the theory of origins for yourself. Just don't accept what you've been taught. It's positioned as a scientific theory, but it cannot be proved by the scientific method in a controlled experiment. It's interesting to note, outside of biology, macroevolutionary theory is being reevaluated. In biochemistry, in genetics, in physics, in astronomy, and in other disciplines, they're finding that the theory of evolution as put forward by Darwin has holes that cannot be explained. So we come back to this red pill moment, where the question becomes, will we break free from the constraining dogmas of public schools, universities, politicians, lawyers, judges, mainstream entertainment, and news, and think for ourselves? Again, Morpheus offers this choice to Neo. You take the blue pill, the story ends, and you wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, and I'll show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth. So, if you want to take the red pill and do your own thinking, here are a couple of book resources by Michael Behe, a biochemist, Darwin's Black Box, and The Edge of Evolution, and then this other book we've spoken of numerous times, The Case for the Creator, or these DVD resources, The Privileged Planet from an Astronomer's Point of View, Unlocking the Mystery of Life from a DNA Genetics Point of View, and then Darwin's Dilemma, where modern science is finding huge and large holes gaping in Darwin's theory of evolution. So I invite you to think for yourself, just as the founders did, and clarify in your mind the difference between the Creator and alternative theories of origins. My name's Craig Seibert. Thanks for listening.